Hello everyone. In this video tutorial I will guide you how you can make photo retouching of a photo shoot or any photo that you have taken from your camera or DSLR. So without any further ado, let's get started. The photo that I have choose for this example is this one. Let me just drag and drop it inside my Photoshop. So basically when you drag and drop the file inside the Photoshop, it gives you two kind of formats. One is JPEG format and the other one is CR2 format, depending on what kind of camera you are using. Either you are using Nikon camera or Canon camera or whatever camera you are using. One is JPEG format and the other one is CR2 format. The JPEG format is the preview of that. The CR2 is the actual file that you have to edit inside Adobe Photoshop. So let me clear one thing over here is you don't have to edit if you want to uh, get high resolution results. You don't have to edit JPEG photo, right? So just import the CR2 file inside Photoshop and edit that inside Photoshop instead of JPEG file. The problem with JPEG format file is that it loses its quality over time if you directly edit it inside the Photoshop instead of camera raw. So I prefer basically CR2 file. So that is something that I want to mention over here. Let's move on to our editing part. So as we can see this panel in front of us and there is a photo inside that. This photo basically is something that comes up when we import CR2 file inside Photoshop, and this panel that we have been watching, it's a camera raw panel. So the very first thing that I adjust inside my camera raw panel is adjusting the shadows of the image. So the first thing that we are going to do is increase the shadows a little bit from our handle, and what it will impact on the image is, as you can see inside the image on one side, when I increase or decrease these handles, the darkness on the image increases or decreases on both of the sides. So basically what you need to do is you have to see and you have to observe your image overall, and you need to see that on what areas you have more darkness and on what areas you have less darkness. So according to that you have to adjust the quantity of your shadows. If you increase that, you will see that there is a mild difference inside the image and its brightness. And also at the same time, just make sure that you do not increase the shadows so much or to a very higher degree that the image from both sides start to look very different or start to look like that they are very flat. So just need to make sure that it gives a very unique and very natural look. So here I will keep its value somewhere around 20, 30 or 35 according to this example. And it's not important that for every example or every photo I will have to keep the same values. You just have to keep tweaking around and playing around with the values and see how it comes up. The second thing is I will look for my highlights and move forward to adjust my highlights and see and observe that what are the areas that are most exposed towards my image, and I will adjust the highlights forward and backward inside my panel and see how it impacts my image. And I will adjust its value all the way down to minus. So as you can see that as I keep on decreasing the value, all the white areas inside the image impacts as well. Otherwise, on a natural part, that is basically very white, and I will have to adjust that and decrease it to lower possible value. Also make sure that you do not make it all the way down to minus 100% because it will impact the visual quality of the subject in a negative way. So you have to keep both sides on a balanced point of view. Next up, we will move on to our white and black balance and see how it impacts our image. So the white balance plays the role of the white areas inside your image. As you can see, some areas inside my image are very dark and some areas are very light. Especially in this example where my subject is wearing the white costume and the background at the same time is light color. So in order to balance it out, we will play around with the white balance. So once I'm done with this part, I need to make sure that the contrasting balance of overall image also balance out and looks similar. But you have moved to contrast once you are happy with all your settings that you have made inside the other areas like shadows and highlights and white balance. Just need to make sure that once you start doing this, you are already done with the other settings in the panel. So as I keep increasing my contrast, I can see that my subject is getting darker and darker, but that is not what I want. So in order to balance it out, what I need to do is I will increase the exposure a little bit. One thing you have to make sure, exposure is something very sensitive. So just make sure that when you increase the value of exposure, it should be very careful and very minor, because exposure is something when you increases its value, it impacts your image dramatically. As you can see on my screen, when I increases the exposure, the white areas are impacting a lot. So let me just undo that, and I will increase the exposure just a little bit. So these are all of my settings related to camera raw, and I feel that I am pretty much happy with all of these settings. Once we are done with the brightness and all that stuff, then I will move on to adjusting my sharpness of the image. And while doing that, I usually keep that between 20 to 25 or 35 sometimes. I think this is too much according to my background, so let me just go back to 9. And in order to make the image a little bit vibrant, I will keep the values here maybe somewhere around 5 for the saturation and vibrance. So we are pretty much done with this part. Over here, in order to increase my sharpness of the image, let me just pump up to 50. So once you are done with this part, I will open the image and it will just pop up inside my Photoshop. And now I will make a duplicate copy, and I will use the patch tool to remove the extra chunk inside the image, because this video is not about removing these areas, so I will just fast forward my video from here. Alright, so once I'm done with that part, I need to make sure that there are some other areas inside my Photoshop in the image that are not very well treated inside camera raw. So now in this phase I will just cover up those areas and make sure that selective color image adjustments are properly aligned. I will go to image, I will go to adjustments, and then I will select selective color. So this is the window that I will play around with, because I have to adjust the white areas inside my image. So I will go ahead and select white, and I will just decrease that and see what happens. As I decrease the value of blacks, I can see that my areas inside the image start to become more white, and as I increase them, they become more darker. So I'm pretty much happy at 30 value, and I will click OK. And one thing I need to make sure that this area where we have the shoulder and the arm should also be a little bit dark, because it seems like this is so much bright. So in order to do that, let me just select the whole canvas, and on the top, as you can see, I have a button where we say select subject, and I will go ahead and select that. And as I hit OK, inside the image it has detected the subject and selected the boundaries. But that is not actually what I want. I'm only looking for these white areas. So I will select my lasso tool, and I will select Alt on my keyboard and subtract all other selection. That's it. 125 is pretty much good. Now I will go ahead and go to same option that I selected before, and now from here, from the drop down, I will select the white and adjust my black areas and make sure that all the white adjustments inside the image are pretty much corrected. And I can also play around with some other color influences and see that how impact my image. There are some other options as well, like cyan and magenta, and then we have the yellow. So just play around and tweak them and see how it impacts the image. So that's it. One side of my image is adjusted, but if I look at the other side of the subject, I can see that the areas are pretty much dark. So I will select all of them, and after making my selection, I will go ahead and make sure that everything is selected properly. I will have to do something vice versa that I have done for the other part. So I will select this, and after selecting the selective color, I will go ahead and make sure that all of my white areas are a little bit more brighter. So once I am done with this part, I can see that there are some areas inside this selection that are being influenced by some other colors that are not inside our theme. For example, I can see that some areas are magenta or like purple, so I will adjust them from my other color selections from the drop down, and I will tweak around these handles and see how it impact my image. And the reason why I am doing this is that I can apply the color balance on overall image, and the whole image itself has to have a balanced visual look. Alright, so once we have done the whole part, I think it's all good to go. Just need to make sure that the black areas, for example the areas that are covered with the hair or some shadows, should have a little bit more contrast look or the dark look, so that the overall image can be having a more better balanced look. I think 7 value is pretty much good. That's all about today's tutorial. Just let me know if you have any questions inside comment section. Thank you. Have a nice day.